Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, Springfield and the greater Ozarks and world area. And Germany.
Yeah, I think we're 97% United States, so we got 3% abroad.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Well, I don't care if you're in the heart of the United States or you're up on the North Pole. We're glad to have you. We welcome people of all backgrounds and nationalities and different we try to have a diverse perspective on things, and you only get that by inclusion.
And Santa, if you and your elves are listening to this up there at the North Pole, I ask for one thing this Christmas: student loan forgiveness. Help a brother out.
Yeah, I've heard that people are getting forgiveness, and I'm like, what?
Look, I'm okay with paying my dues like those before me, but I'm also okay with a random rich woman deciding that my handsome self needs some money to pay my student loans. So
I'm kind of
too.
surprised that hasn't happened yet for you, Kyle. I'm very surprised, if we were being honest.
I know, me too. I really have like a pay this man money sort of face.
I do. You do. I don't.
You don't. That's why you have to work for your living.
That's why this is not a video podcast.
Exactly.
Yet. Okay, moving forward. Kyle, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about the gripping, baseball-playing, Harrison Ford having movie 42 about Jackie Robinson being the first player leading the integration drive in the Major League Baseball.
Good old Jack Rob. Yeah, so whole spiel about inclusion at the beginning, kind of segueing into our movie here. Kyle, we're going to be less awkward than Selma, okay?
We're going to try.
We're going to try our best.
I like to think that Selma made us grow a little bit as people.
I think Selma made me realize how uncomfortable it can be trying to navigate these topics in today's world.
Well, especially when you're trying to be a very like movie-centric podcast, you know.
Right.
We're really not trying to get any more political than we need to be, but racism is wrong, folks. And
racism is wrong. I don't care which party, as long as they stand for that.
I don't care who you are. Racism bad. Don't do it.
Negative 5 stars. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to talk about 42, which is from 2013. It is written and directed by Brian Helgeland.
Okay.
I really need to get somebody. I need to start having somebody give me a reference on these names, man. They're like, this guy, can he read? Anyways, Brian Helgeland, who also directed 2015's Legend, which starred Tom Hardy and Tom Hardy. That's the one where he plays the identical twin brothers. Anyways, he also wrote the screenplay for Mystic River. Great movie. And that got him an Oscar nomination.
Nice.
This broke the record for opening weekend of a baseball movie at 27 million. Do you know which one previously held that record?
A League of Their Own?
You would think. Or maybe a Bad News Bears?
Yeah. Was it The Sandlot?
No.
Oh.
It's freaking Benchwarmers.
Bro, what that is what is wrong with society right there.
The Rob Schneider headed 2006 epic Benchwarmers.
Okay, we have to give 2006 some credit. They didn't have streaming sites yet, so like you had to go see it in theaters. I
mean, I guess, I don't know.
You didn't distinguish. You just went and saw the movie you thought was fun.
I liked that. I liked that movie as a kid. I don't know. Maybe it's better than I would think it is. But I remember watching as a kid and being like, this is not high quality entertainment.
I remember really liking it at the age of 16, which, you know, is not always the best indicator.
Not always the best. So anyways, back to our movie here. 42 went on to gross a total of 97 million. So let's just get this out of the way here, man. This stars Chadwick Boseman. It's his second starring role in a movie, but the first like noticeable one. It's the first one. It's the one he was remembered for.
It's his headliner movie,
yep.
You know?
And it kind of launched his career. 3 years later, he'd play his most recognizable role as Black Panther in the first Captain America. In Captain America
Civil
War, yeah.
The third Captain America movie.
Yes, the third. I knew that didn't sound right as soon as I said it.
Wakanda forever, baby.
And then he'd go on to have his own standalone movie and 2 Avenger movies. Tragic, man. He died of colon cancer in 2020 at the age of, he was only 43. It was shocking. He kept it a secret. I've heard even from like co-stars, like people, like co-stars in the Avengers cast and not Captain America, Black Panther cast, because I think the plans for Black Panther 2 were already in motion, and this derailed everything.
If I remember correctly, I read an article a couple years ago that if I remember correctly, that it was the type of cancer where he was taking treatments and they weren't doing anything, and so like at all to the cancer, so he made the decision to just live at like peak health as long as he could instead of continuing treatments, which unfortunately is sometimes that's the decision that people have to make. But I think it speaks a lot to his caliber as an artist and as a human and as a giver of like, you know, enjoyment and hope and all the other things we get from movies, that he put his suffering aside to work as long as he could for people he would never meet.
Yeah, he truly a humble person. He didn't want people to make a spectacle over his illness. And he'd actually been diagnosed in 2016, which is when he first played Black Panther. So the entire time, I mean, you gotta think, Endgame came out in 2019 and he passed in 2020. So, he was definitely, there's no way that he wasn't feeling the effects of it, and for him to put on his game face and, you know, push through and not bring attention to it, you know, that really means something.
Oh yeah.
Gone way too soon, man. What a career he could have had. I wonder what, you know, post Endgame, Marvel has really fallen off, and I really wonder if he was one that they really could have strapped the rocket to and kept moving forward with good movies. But yeah, you know, it's just,
we'll never know.
You never know. Anyways, rest in peace. We're going to talk about the movie that really launched him here. Real quick, a little thing, we kind of mention it from time to time, but I want to make a little segment here. History according to Hollywood alumni, ones that we've seen in movies past.
Okay, all right.
And the only one I have for this one, and maybe I'm missing somebody, I looked through the cast. Andre Holland, who plays Wendell Smith, also played Andrew Young in Selma. And that's the only one that I had. So let's get into this movie, man.
Let's do it.
Okay. So you told me, and I asked you about this at the this is one of my questions, and I was like, hey, can you kind of discuss what was it like returning from World War II? You know, white people, black people fighting the Nazis and the Japanese side by side. We come home and the world is not as pushed forward as we might have hoped. Where are we at?
We're at a really, well, we're at the beginning of what we now know as the Civil Rights Movement, is really what starts when these veterans come back from Europe and the Pacific. Part of what happens is that, well, first of all, I just want to preface this with African Americans have served in every war in American history, even before the military was desegregated. Revolution, War of 1812, Mexican-American War, they've been there. Even if they were support roles, they've been there. Their contribution is all too often looked over. So here's to you guys and, you know, the sacrifices that they made on behalf of a country that didn't treat them correctly. World War II, you have a huge amount of African Americans who, men and women, who either work military jobs or serve in a combat capacity. You know, the Tuskegee Airmen are probably the most famous example, but there's the Black Panther Tank Regiment. There's a handful of divisions. In Europe, they see African-American units see a lot of action in Italy, partially because the military is still segregated in World War II. So you have African-American units being commanded by white officers. Now, we have ended the idea that African-American soldiers can only be non-commissioned officers. So there's a handful of lieutenants. There's probably a major. I know the Tuskegee Airmen went all the way up to their colonel. Depends on the regiment. Infantry, though, are very segregated. There's a lot of famous examples of the commander in the Southern Theater of Europe seems to be a pretty racist guy himself, and he's of the opinion that you should let Southern commanders command African American units because they know how to talk to them. They know how to keep them in line. Yeah, it's bad. I don't have time to go into the examples now, but just picture your, racist great uncle who won't admit that people are equal commanding a combat battalion in Italy in 1940 against racist fascists, and just picture how awful that would have had to be. So coming back, you've fought mostly the Nazis. A couple of you have served in the Pacific. You've seen the horrors of war, and you have, by and large, volunteered to fight for a country that does not treat you equally or anything that resembles equally. And you come back and you get treated just like you did before you went.
Like nothing changed.
Like nothing has changed. Not by everybody, but by the country as a whole. You get treated like nothing has changed. And you can only imagine how frustrating that would have had to be for people, and how like backbreaking it would have been for some, and how inspiring it would have been for others. It would have just depended on how you took it.
Okay, and speaking of which, we have two different leads. Whenever we come back, we have two different leads in baseball. You have the major league, and then, I apologize, this is what it was called. You have the Negro League. And so, what is the difference here? Is this like NBA, WNBA? Are they competitive? Like, is there any overlap?
It's more like NFL and XFL, but if the XFL was only minority players.
Okay.
Is really what we're talking about here. So Major League Baseball is baseball as we know it. There's less teams because it's a smaller population, but it's all white, completely white. The Negro Leagues are completely African American, and they are professional baseball players in the sense of their skills. But they're semi-professional in their pay. They often have to travel a lot more than Major League Baseball. And unlike Major League Baseball that has set stadiums that you play in, the Negro Leagues participated in something called barnstorming, which is you play in certain cities, but you also travel the country, and you have baseball games in high school fields, college baseball fields, anywhere you can have a game to try to raise money and get some money in your pocket and in your team's pocket.
Okay, so it's almost like an independent promotion type situation.
It's almost like maybe arena football is a better comparison than the XFL.
Gotcha.
It's maybe like arena baseball. It's not nearly as different. It's the same game, unlike arena football versus normal football. But think in terms of culture difference in team travel, who's watching, it would be pretty similar to Kurt Warner moving from arena football to the NFL, just in the sense that instead of traveling all the time, making a decent amount of money, but a normal amount of money, and having to like work your ass off to do it, suddenly you're offered a contract to play in a fancy stadium and only go to other stadiums.
So real quick, I know though that I guess in some of the stadiums it's segregated, but like you have a black audience and a white audience at the major league games.
Yes, you do. Yes.
Are there white people attending the Negro League games as well?
Yeah, there definitely are. I mean, to some extent, baseball is baseball for people.
So it's not like completely separated.
No, but it would be. I would assume, without having looked up the attendance numbers, and I don't know if those are records that I can find.
Yeah,
I would assume that it would be a similar ratio, just inverted. So if 80% of in-person Major League, and I don't know what it would be, but if 80% of Major League Baseball audience members at that time were white and 20% were not white, flip it around. 70% of Negro League viewers would be African American and 30 or 40% would be white.
So it's definitely majority of the white people are watching MLB and majority of black people are
and this is when professional football exists, but it's nothing like it becomes. Professional basketball really doesn't take off until the 50s, honestly.
Yeah.
And so right now, baseball is the country's sport.
Baseball
is what
number
you do.
one.
You follow baseball.
Yeah. All right. Okay. It's 1947, and we're gonna meet Mr. Rickey. He's the owner of. He's the owner of the Brooklyn Dodgers, or commissioner of the Brooklyn Dodgers.
He is the general manager of the Brooklyn Dodgers.
He's going to be our driving force here. He says he wants to bring a black player to the team. So he doesn't necessarily single out Jackie Robinson. He has this idea of, I want to bring a black player to the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
That's his plan. And Jackie Robinson happens to be the one he decides on. And I thought of this scene, and during the scene, I thought of it like in Rocky, when Apollo Creed's trying to find out who he's gonna face and who he's gonna give the opportunity to, and he decides on Rocky, obviously. But he says an important line of, "I want a player that's got the guts not to fight back. People aren't going to like it. They're going to try to get you to react. I want you not to react." Very much in line with what Martin Luther King Jr. was go on to embody during the Civil Rights Movement. People who followed Martin Luther King Jr. and adopted his philosophy kind of had the same way of thinking of, I want you to have the courage not to react.
Yeah, and that philosophy is as old as, honestly, the racial relations in the United States. Even as early as the late 1800s, early 1900s, you have Booker T. Washington versus W.E.B. Du Bois. And Booker T. Washington is a different but very similar version of Martin Luther King Jr.'s philosophy, which is show them that we deserve equality by being excellent at what we do. W.E.B. Du Bois is, screw that, we're humans, we deserve to be treated equally, and you tell them that. So it's not quite as stark of a contrast as it becomes, because things usually become more extreme over time, but that's not a novel concept. That has been something that's been around for proponents of equality for a long time, which is, you're not going to win by fighting them, win by winning them over.
Right. So was he actually court-martialed for not sitting in the back of a military bus?
He was. Jackie Robinson is a commissioned second lieutenant with the 761st Tank Battalion, which is now known as the Black Panther Tank Battalion. They serve extensively in Europe, on the Allied front in France, and they earn that name. They are ferocious. They take on German tanks that outgun and outmaneuver them head on. They fight like crazy people, and they earn the title the Black Panthers by the end of the war.
And that is what inspired the name of the movement here in the United States of the Black Panthers?
Of the militant movement in the Civil Rights Movement, yes. They took the name from the Tank Battalion.
And then later on, he would go on to play Black Panther.
The Black Panther.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Okay. So about 10 minutes into the movie, I realized that Mr. Richie is Harrison Ford. I did not realize it.
Dude, Indiana Jones over here leading the March for Equality. God bless him.
I didn't see it in his face. I don't know if I've seen very many movies with him in it recently, so that may be part of it.
He also is an actor that he does a really good job of accepting whatever makeup is required to make him fit the part. Because Harrison Ford today does not look as old as he does playing Branch Rickey, or as like gentle grandpa old as he looks playing Branch Rickey.
All right, so the two are going to meet. Jackie Robinson and Branch Rickey are going to meet, and this is when he tells him, I want a player that has the guts not to fight back. He's also going to tell him we win hitting, running, and fielding, essentially establishing early on, stick to the game, be good at the game, and you'll win them over.
Well, if you're good, they have to accept you. If you help us win games, they're not going to be, most people are not going to be dumb enough to be like, no, you should kick him off the team.
So after this, he's going to propose to Ray over the phone, and she says yes.
Man, I don't know.
What?
Different time, man.
I don't know. That's a different level of Riz is what that is.
That's dude. Let me tell you, Jackie Robinson had that Riz. He had that. He had that je ne sais quoi, baby.
If you are part of our older audience and don't know what Riz is essentially the ability to persuade a woman, or I mean, it goes either way, but persuade someone to like you.
It's that Dick Van Dyke intangible. I don't know why you're attractive, but wow, you're attractive.
It's charisma.
Sorta.
Yeah. Ray says, I've never seen one before, referring to the white-only restroom. Where's the line for segregation at this time? Roughly. I mean, obviously, I'm sure you can't just draw a line across the map, but...
I mean, you kind of can.
Can you really?
More or less. So
that's wild.
It's the West Coast really doesn't have it, and neither does the Northeast.
Okay.
What is now known as the Rust Belt, it varies. But basically, rule of thumb, Missouri down and let's say Colorado east have some form of Jim Crow.
Okay. Enter Wendell Smith, who is essentially he's going to essentially be the assistant to Jackie and Ray throughout most of this journey. He is hired, I guess he's hired specifically by Branch Rickey to kind of look after them. He takes Jackie to spring training where we're going to meet our fellow ball players, and Wendell's kind of prepping him for questions, and Jackie's kind of blowing him off. And then he gets out of the car, and the reporters that are surrounding him ask the same exact questions.
And he's like, What
do we know about Wendell Smith, just kind of as a real person?
Yeah, we know that he is part of the reason that Jackie Robinson's legend grows while he's still in the league. He is an excellent sports writer. In fact, as we note at the end of the movie, he is the first black sports writer to be hired by the official Major League Baseball Sports Writers Guild, whatever it's actually called. But he sees something in both the hiring and performance of Jackie Robinson, as well as the man, that makes him understand that this is their shot. This is the guy that, if I tell his story correctly, will be able to break the floodgates open.
Okay.
To the extent that even Jackie Robinson himself was on record later in his life as stating, without Wendell, there is no Jackie Robinson. At least not as we know the athlete.
Interesting. Okay. So instantly, Clay, who is like a coach on the team, he's going to call Jackie the N-word, and Branch Rickey's like, hey man, remember, your job's not permanent.
Yeah, well, and this is the coach of the Montreal. The Montreal Royals. The Montreal Royals, who are the minor league feeder team for the Brooklyn Dodgers at this time, and they hire him into the Royals to see if he can actually play, to see how good he is, and to see what his temperament is like. But Branch Rickey makes it very, very clear that there is no racism in this ball club,
right.
At least not from the staff. So you can either get with it or you can get gone.
I see that Pee Wee took a break drifting through Tokyo to play some baseball. He's played by Lucas Black, who is best known for
the worst Fast and Furious movie.
I don't think it's the worst. At one point in time, it was the worst, but now I don't think it's the worst.
Well, in my opinion, they stopped making them after Fast 7. So as long as they stop making them after Fast 7, it's the worst.
I think that's when I stopped watching them too. I think that's when the world stopped watching them.
Well, it's Paul Walker passed away, and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
We cried, and then we never returned.
Right.
Okay. So Jackie gets booed as he walks onto the field for the first practice game between Montreal and Brooklyn. This is just the training. And then the pitcher aims at his head, and he kind of has to duck back to avoid getting hit. None of them are wearing a helmet at this point in time. Concussion's not a thing, I guess. I guess they probably didn't.
People went blind playing Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
So it's off and on, actually since 1905, but it's up to the players. Most of them don't wear them because you can't see as well, you can't run as fast, basic stuff. They're not made mandatory until 1971.
1971.
But as early as the 1960s, players start thinking, man, it'd be really cool if I didn't risk dying every time I went up to the plate.
100-mile-an-hour fastball to the side of the head.
I mean, yeah, if you take a fastball to the temple, you're dead. Like, you're actually dead. Now, the odds of that happening are pretty slim, but you're a dead duck if you take a 100-mile-per-hour fastball to the temple.
Apparently, if you're Jackie Robinson, those odds are a little bit higher.
A little bit higher, since everybody's throwing balls at your head.
Yes. So, anyways, then the pitcher during the practice game is going to throw 4 balls. Not at the same time, but one after another, and Jackie's going to walk to first. and then Jackie's like, you know what, you're not gonna let me hit, I'm gonna run. And so then he's gonna show that he's ready to steal bases. And I love the frustration on this pitcher's face. He's like, what is this guy doing?
Well, you don't play right. When I look at you, you're supposed to go back to the base. What are you doing?
He goes, what? Hold on a second. This guy, okay, I'm gonna get him out. And then he can't. And he gets even more frustrated. And then when he tries to get him out, Jackie Mace is the second. And then
actually, that was a difference between the Negro Leagues and Major League Baseball, is that stealing existed in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
But in the Negro Leagues, you had to be more exciting because you're drawing. You don't have the name of the Major League teams. So again, arena football has to be faster, has to be crazier because it's not the NFL. You have to steal bases in the Negro Leagues because you want people to come watch. You have to be willing to face down the pitcher because you want people to come watch. It's a different, same game, different philosophy.
Interesting enough. So the crowd's going to kind of turn and they're going to start to cheer for Jackie.
I mean, anybody who steals two bases at once is a pretty...
Right. So then, they tried to get him out to steal third and it doesn't work. Afterwards, though, this old man's going to bring a foreboding warning that a group of men are coming, and Wendell calls Branch Rickey, and they decide it's best to leave town. So he's going to pack up Jackie, and he's going to rush him out of town. And then Jackie thought he was getting cut from the team, so he was not worried at all about a bunch of angry white people trying to come kill him. Which, I mean, maybe just best that way. An old white out of shape sheriff is never a good sign.
No.
So the policeman tries to force Jackie off the field, and it's like he's like, "This isn't allowed here," and he's like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "State law, man. State law. You can't play here." So obviously, this is very rough around the edges. We're ruffling some feathers, but there is a bit of levity here because some random worker, seeing Jackie and Ray walk down the street, follows them and says, "Hey, I just want to know, we support what you're doing, and a lot of other folks wish you well." And I was like, man, go you, random dude.
That's right.
Thank God.
Random, not as racist as his neighbors, man. You go, dude.
And I was thinking about that, like we talked about at the top of this episode, if soldiers returning from World War II, that had to have an impact on a lot of returning soldiers.
Yeah. It depended on personal experience. A lot of the Tuskegee Airmen and the Black Panther Tank Regiment are good examples because those are war battalions that save infantry, or you save bomber regiments, or you save other tanks. And so they do convert probably hundreds, if not thousands, of soldiers to the side of, you know what, you guys are good at what you do. The thing, though, is that, as we discussed a little in Selma, and this movie's not nearly as on the nose about it as Selma is that the problem was not that everybody was racist. The problem was that everybody was, unfortunately, every white person was unfortunately pretty okay with other people being racist because it was just the way things were. So that's what you see, though, in that comment, is that guy's not going to go argue with his friends probably, but he'll at the very least talk to Jackie and be like, "Hey, man, you're good at what you do. Keep going."
Right. And I feel like Jackie's courage is contagious, and you see that later in the film, and we'll get there.
I think it's hard to watch somebody be targeted for such a obscure reason and not react and not come around to their side, which is part of the genius of Branch Rickey telling him that,
Speaking of Mr. Rickey here, he's going to inform Jackie that he's made the Montreal Royals. Now, like you said, this is the minor league team. He has not quite made the Dodgers yet, but he pushes for Jackie to run the bases and make the pitchers nervous until they come apart. During their first game of the minor league, Ray's going to get sick. And a lady tells her, "You might be pregnant." So it looks like Jackie is stealing bases on and off the field because 8 months later, his son is born.
Guy's batting average is good on the plate and at home.
No kidding. So we kind of brush over his first season with the Royals. Do you know what happened?
So I don't know. I could find it. It's not relevant how well the Royals did, but I do want to give you a real quick glimpse into the type of ball player that Branch Rickey has secured in Jackie Robinson.
Let's do it.
In the Montreal Royals' very first game with Jackie Robinson, so April 18th, 1946, they played the Jersey City Giants, which is another minor league. At the time, it's called the International League, but it's minor leagues. Another minor league team. And it is Robinson's first appearance. He's playing against a pitcher who actually has played against him before. They're both from California. Pitcher's name is Warren Sandel. He's so mad at the idea of this black man being a part of professional baseball that he refuses to throw at Robinson in the sense that he won't throw strikes. He won't do it. So he puts him to the ground with a head ball. He throws the ball at his head. And then he's so mad that he doesn't want to give this guy a chance. So he tries to ball him out, hoping he'll swing at things.
Yeah.
He doesn't, much like in the movie. And then in 5 at-bats, Robinson gets 4 hits. His first hit was a 3-run home run. He also scored 4 runs himself, drove in 3, and stole 2 bases in a 14-1 victory.
Wow.
By the end of the season, he led the International League with a .349 batting average and a .985 fielding percentage, which for those of you who are not baseball savvy, batting average is how often you get on base from being at bat, and fielding percentage is how well you handle a batted or thrown ball, so how well you are defensively. 349 is well above average, and 985 is insane.
Yeah.
So as far as the International League goes, Robinson is just a super dynamic and incredible athlete. He's treated bad on road trips. In fact, they had to cancel an entire tour in the South. But the Montreal fan base, because Montreal's in Canada, were actually really enthusiastic about him because he's such a good ball player that they can't help it. And he does that thing that all controversial decisions do, where regardless of whether people loved or hated him, they showed up to see it. So more than 1 million people go to games involving Jackie Robinson in 1946.
So I'm sure there are people who protested and refused to go, but they are outnumbered by the ones who are intrigued and wanting to go.
Even if you're just going to yell racial slurs at him, you're buying tickets.
You're going.
Yeah, you're still paying.
I mean, you shouldn't do that, but
no,
still.
you definitely don't do that. But from a financial standpoint, it's good for the league. And then the crazy thing, 1 million people are going to minor league baseball games to see this guy. At a time where the U.S. population is like 140 million people maybe.
Yeah.
So and there are going to be repeat tickets, but basically 1 out of every 140 people in the country go to see Jackie Robinson play baseball while he's in the minor leagues.
Which I mean shows that he's ready for the major leagues. He's ready for the Dodgers, and that's what's going to happen here. Did the Brooklyn Dodgers before the season actually started? They put out this petition that I'm not going to play with him, and it's kind of worded out in a stupid try to explain your racism and reasons for segregation way. But some players sign it, some players don't. Jackie finds out who his friends are really quickly. They make it very obvious. But was this petition real?
I don't know if there was an official petition, but I do know that there's heavy insinuation by several Dodgers players that they would rather sit out than play with a black man. And they do try to brew a mutiny, and it ends almost exactly like it does in the movie when Leo DeRocher informs the team, and this is a quote, so I'm just going to apologize for language off the bat, but it's a powerful quote. "I do not care if the guy is yellow or black, or if he has stripes like a fucking zebra. I'm the manager of this team, and I say he plays. What's more, I say he can make us all rich. And if any of you cannot use the money, I will see that you are all traded."
Very good. Well spoken.
It's how you shut down racism, baby.
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
That's why in the movie, let's just go ahead and list it to that. So in the movie, Branch Rickey tells Leo to deal with the petition in any way he sees fit, essentially. And he drags him to the kitchen and berates them and informs them. Basically, almost the same quote that you just said. I don't care what color he is. He's playing. Deal with it. But Leo is not around for this season. He is caught in an affair, and the commissioner of baseball demands that he be suspended for a year, foiling the plans to manage an already volatile situation. Now, I did look this up or come across this in my research for fun facts and things like that. Apparently, Leo was known for hanging out with gamblers, and that's actually more of the reason why he was suspended for a year is because of gambling, not for an affair. So apparently, you can have relations outside of your marriage, but don't risk your own money.
Yeah, I think, though, that
doesn't make any sense. That just shows the backwards thinking of the times.
Well, it can, but also let me caveat that with, as a professional sports organization, it's none of my business really if you sleep with loose women or cheat on your wife. It's not good, but it's not my business.
Mm-hmm.
If I find out that you have a gambling problem and you're in a position of power in a baseball team,
Oh, that is true.
maybe your gambling problem is going to reflect how you tell your players to play.
Right. You don't want to be throwing games in order to make more money.
So when you look at it more than just surface level, actually it makes more sense than in the movie. In the movie, it's used as a plot device to show how fickle the commissioner of baseball is. And it's really, in the movie, it's painted as he's targeting Branch Rickey for forcing Jackie Robinson, quote unquote, forcing Jackie Robinson into the league.
Yeah.
So I'm taking your manager away. In real life, it might have been that, but it's also, man, a gambling addict is a loose cannon to have in a professional sports league.
So he's going to make the Dodgers, but he's used to playing shortstop, and shortstop's already taken. The only position that's up for grabs is first base, and Robinson's never played first base. Just to show how great of an athlete and has dedication to it, he's going to learn it, and he's going to excel at it. But, that's got to be to play at the major lead. We're not talking, in your beer league that I had to step in and I actually did pretty well. To do not just well, to like I said, excel in arguably maybe the hardest position on a baseball team.
It's shortstop's pretty freaking hard, but shortstop, first base, they're both incredibly difficult.
So, and to excel at the major lead in a position you've never played before, man, just something else. So, Robinson's going to step into the field with a very positive reception from the crowd, except old white fans that tell him to go home. The way that it's edited now, it sounds like everything's positive, and then it goes quiet, and then it's legitimately like maybe 12 people who are yelling at him, and it almost seems like everything else disappears for a moment. He only hears those 12 people. Now, obviously, I'm sure there was a lot more than 12, but in the movie, it almost seems like we're seeing he's got this positive response, but all he hears is the negative.
I think it's less that, for me, it's less that he gets a positive response and he only hears the negative, and more of he knows that the positive response is for the Dodgers, but it's not for him. The only people cheering for him are the people yelling racial abuse at him.
Okay, well, that's going to change before too long.
It will. But that's my perception of it, is he's aware enough to know that the people cheering aren't cheering for me, but the people yelling the N-word from the stands, they are only yelling that at me.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but because like you just said about his accomplishments in the minor league, he was the star player for the entire league for a year. So, I don't know.
But I don't know, but I think the thing, though, is that was for a Canadian minor league team.
Yeah.
And Canada has a troubled but noticeably better racial history than the United States.
Yeah.
And is just generally more accepting. Has been since the 1800s. Anyway, that's in the minor leagues, and that's only his team. That the supporters of his team that support him, they had to cancel an entire tour, like an entire however many game tour, because there were so many death threats and threats of violence against him and the team in general.
Yeah.
So hatred is very widespread for this.
Well, yeah, for sure. Okay, yeah. We're going to get a little comment here that I cracked up hearing this. I don't know. I hope it's not meant to be racist, but we have a sportscaster up in the Skybox, Red Barber. He's a famous sports announcer for over 40 years. He's played by John C. McGinley, who's best known for playing Dr. Tots on Scrubs.
I love that actor. He's in everything, and he's so good every time he's in it.
So Jackie walks out, and he says, Jackie is very definitely brunette. What?
I think it's the same level of humor as when the new manager that they call in, when DeRozier's suspended for a year, comes in and he's looking around and he goes, "Oh yeah, you must be Robinson." Like I think it's somebody who's really not racist, kind of making fun of the.
Oh yeah, that's the. Yeah, he says, "You Robinson." I thought so.
Yeah,
that's.
I think
hilarious.
it's the same. I think he's poking fun at the fact that everybody knows who Jackie Robinson is. Like you don't have to describe him. And so he goes, "Robinson is most definitely a brunette."
Yes. So this, like you just mentioned, the guy comes in and says, "You Robinson." That's Bert. He's going to be our new Leo. He's going to be, that's team manager?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's the new team manager here. We're going to kind of graze over. I mean, during his first game, he clearly makes it to first base, and yet the umpire says he's out. And then he gives him, I hate this stupid little get out of here look that people give. Oh, it makes me so mad. He gives the dumbest expression. If you've never seen this movie, you need to watch it. But watch it, and when you get to that scene, you're going to know exactly what expression I'm talking about. Now, Kyle, you have brought up this line here. We're going through his first season with the Dodgers, and you have another. This is not Red Barber. This is another sports announcer or sports writer of some sort, and he says, I'm not racist. It's just unfair. Their heel bones are longer.
They have a longer heel bone. It gives them an unfair speed advantage.
Yeah, and then Jackie hits a home run, and another guy turns to him and says, "Was that because of his heel bone, Bob?"
And the whole first he says that, and the whole booth is like, okay. And then he hits a home run, and they all start laughing at him. The guy next to him mouths "longer heel bone" as he's typing like the live feed of the game.
Oh man, is that because of the heel bone, Bob?
Is that because of the heel bone, Bob?
We're gonna meet Ben Chapman here, who's gonna be the closest. I guess really the closest thing to like a full antagonist to Jackie Robinson in this movie. He's played by Alan Tudyk.
And he's really good at it. Credit where credit is due.
He is. And ironically, he plays mostly likable characters. He's Tucker in Tucker and Dale versus Evil. If you haven't seen that one, that's another one you got to watch. It's great.
He's the crazy guy in A Knight's Tale,
Yes. So it starts to get to him, man. So he hits 2 outs in a row, and Jackie shows incredible restraint before going down into the dugout and it just exploding. The director Helgeland was told, like, hey, he never broke a bat and had this outburst like this. And he goes, yeah, more than likely it was very private, but he says, I can't imagine him never having any moments of frustration boiling over. And so that's why you have the scene where he's in the dugout, or not the dugout, whatever's below the dugout.
The tunnel, yeah.
The tunnel. He's in the tunnel, and he beats the bat against the wall and breaks it, and he just breaks down crying. He's so mad, and Branch Rickey comes down and talks to him. So, not accurate, per se, but that's because it was, more than likely, again, done in private.
It's a movie. You have to show people the emotional turmoil. So just because Jackie Robinson never in the sight of his teammates did that doesn't mean he never did it, and doesn't mean that inside that wasn't his reaction. And I think credit to Chadwick Boseman, because in the movie, when Branch Rickey comes down to talk to him, he's like angry crying.
Yeah.
And his voice in a heartbreakingly shaky but like I'll kill you tone says, no, the next white son of a bitch who opens his mouth, I'll cave his damn teeth in.
Yeah. Yeah, the pressure on his shoulders is just breaking him. And Branch Rickey reminds him that he's playing an unfair game under great scrutiny, and that only through perseverance and success can he prove the world wrong. Stanky is going to stand up for Robinson whenever he comes to bat for the 3rd time. So Chapman kind of crawls out of the dugout to go harass him one more time because it's worked the first 2 times. So Stanky comes over, and this is when Red Barber gives us, he calls it a chin wag.
Stanky having a chin wag with his former teammate Chapman.
So finally, Jackie's going to get a hit, and he's on first, and then he's going to steal second and third. And then Ben Chapman is going to tuck his tail and go back to the dugout whenever Jackie scores the first run of the game. Now, Chapman in real life was a Philadelphia player that viciously berated Robinson. Ironically, was known as the Alabama Flash because he was so fast and he would steal bases. Mm-hmm. He led his team in bases stolen several years in a row. So ironically, he's known for kind of for obviously Jackie Robinson's known for more than just stealing bases, but for specifically the style of playing, that's what Jackie Robinson's kind of known for. Yeah. And Ben Chapman was kind of known for the same thing. He stated in interviews that he was more known for his racist outbursts on the field than he ever was for his sports career. And in the film, there is a photo that was taken with Jackie Robinson and Ben Chapman, and that's a real photo. You can find it. They're holding a bat so that they don't have to actually touch hands. I mean, obviously, I can't imagine the animosity Jackie Robinson had towards Ben Chapman. And then Chapman would actually be fired mid-season in 1948. So it didn't go very well for him.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because Ben Chapman is a very good, not great, but very good baseball player whose career as both a player and a manager is completely marred by his refusal to just be a decent human being.
Right.
He just absolutely refuses. In 1933, he intentionally spikes Washington Senators second baseman Buddy Meyer, who people believed to be Jewish, and then berated him so badly after spiking him that it caused a 20-minute brawl that saw 300 fans climb out of the stands and engage in a mosh fight in the middle of the field.
Wow.
5-game suspensions and $100 fines for all the players involved. He is traded after Joe DiMaggio arrives on the scene, who is just a far better baseball player than he is. Chapman kind of, keeps his head down. He's known as just being an asshole. That's really, even when he's not being racist, he's just a jerk. That's his reputation.
Right. He's a loudmouth. Yeah.
And he takes that into being a manager. And the worst part is he has a losing record as a manager.
Yeah.
his managerial record is 196 to 276.
Yeah. So
he only wins 41% of his games as a manager, and yet he thinks that he has the ability to stand there and cause problems. And I'm not going to repeat it because it is disgusting, but if you want to know what he actually said to Jackie Robinson, go to Ben Chapman's Wikipedia page, and there's a nice little blurb from a Roger Kahn article in the newspaper The Era that lines out exactly what he said. And that dude should have been hit in the throat with a ball bat.
Well, at least his teammates stuck up for him, and in the end, Jackie Robinson got the home run, and they won the game. And
Branch Rickey said that Ben Chapman did more to unite the Dodgers than anything Jackie Robinson did.
Yeah, like you said earlier about having the courage to stand up. Like, you may passively allow these things, you may not agree with them, but if you allow them to happen.
And as the movie goes on, we see that that Stanky standing up to Ben Chapman is the beginning of the unification. There's still issues with the Dodgers. There's players that won't come around. There's an incident where they're all banned from a hotel because of Jackie Robinson, and one player decides that it's somehow Jackie's fault, and it almost starts a fight in the team. So there's holdouts, but generally the team becomes more and more receptive as they watch this man just take abuse that comes out of nowhere.
Jackie is spiked during a game, and after being stitched up, he talks to Branch Rickey, who tells him that Jackie let him love baseball again. Also, he mentions that Jackie Robinson was hit by pitchers 9 times during the 1947 season.
Yeah.
So they're moving on. They're getting close to the World Series here.
When he is spiked, his teammates, when they're around him, are getting him up, and they're like, the next pitch, you hit that guy in the head. And Jackie's like, no, don't do that. Just win the game and get me out.
Yeah.
But you see the culture, and it's Stanky who tells him to do that. So the guy who first came to his aid is like, you hit that piece of crap in the head as hard as you can on the next pitch.
So we're getting to, it's not the World Series. It's kind of like I don't watch baseball, so I don't know what this would be the equivalent of, but it's like the AFC NFC championship
game. It is.
Game
That's exactly what it is. It's the National League and the American League. So you're looking for your league's pennant to then represent them in the World Series.
Yes. Okay. So then we have Fritz Ostermuller. Guess if he's a good guy. So he pitches, and he's the one who hits. Is he the one who hits him?
Yeah, he hits him. In the movie, he's the one who hits him.
Yes.
Even though there's apparently 9 guys who hit him, but he hits him and almost knocks him out. In reality, I want to preface this with, in reality, the first inning pitch that he throws in the game that hits Jackie is on his wrist.
Yes.
And it was just a normal, like, they call it a brushback pitch. It's a normal pitch to make you bail off the plate. That's what he says.
He claims it was a brushback pitch, obviously not knowing.
And to be fair, I mean, I feel like, especially in this time period, people have already thrown balls at his head. If Ostermuller wanted to hit him in the head, he'd hit him in the head.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't think there's any reason to not believe Ostermuller. In the movie, though, for plot purposes, to show the unification of the team, he hits Jackie in the head, and the dugout immediately clears. And I really like this little quote they use in the movie, because you're immediately reminded that all of these guys, or the vast majority of them, are World War II veterans, because one of them comes out and says, Ostermuller, I'm going to come at you like a kamikaze, which basically means I'm going to kill you.
We're both going down.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the movie here, Ostermuller is going to finally pitch inside the box, and Jackie's going to swing the bat, sending German racism all the way back across the Atlantic. And the Dodgers are going to head to the World Series, where it's not mentioned in the movie, but they'd unfortunately lose to the New York Yankees, which is why our movie ends with this game against Pittsburgh.
Joe DiMaggio strikes again.
In the movie, this one run seals the deal, but in reality, it was just the first run of the game, and it made the score 1-0, but they would end up winning 4-2. And then the next day is when they won the pennant. Robinson's named Rookie of the Year for 1948. And we did a couple little fun facts at the end of it here. Watch the movie. Get those fun facts. We can tell you different fun facts. I've got some fun facts for you. You want something that's going to undo everything we've said? Not really. But I thought it was interesting. Jackie Robinson, not the first black man to play in the MLB.
No, he was not.
That would be Moses Fleetwood Walker, who played for the Toledo Blue Stockings. Do you know what year?
1880 something.
1884. That blows my mind. 1884.
Well, a part of history that has kind of been erased from social memory just because it was so brief is there is a 20-ish year period where it looks like integration is going to happen way before it does.
Yeah.
Because immediately after the Civil War, the South is forced to integrate at the point of federal muskets.
Yeah.
And that legacy carries on a little bit. In fact, if I remember correctly, we still do not have as racially diverse, quote unquote, of a Congress as we did in the 1870s.
Interesting.
Now, granted, that was because anybody who had served as an officer in the Confederate Army could not run for office and could not vote, and they were the only people with enough money to run for office. However, it's really brief. It's the 20-ish years after the Civil War, in Reconstruction immediately after. But there is a time where it looks like things are going to be forced to trend for the better. And then eventually, public sentiment remains undefeated in democracies, and the South just refuses. They're like, nope, not going to do it, won't do it. So you can either keep your troops down here and slowly shoot everybody who joins the Klan, or you can give up. And the federal government gives up. And
so we kind of regress at that point.
Yeah, and that's Jim Crow is implemented, black codes are implemented. So yeah, you'll find it's interesting. We think some of these people are the firsts. And in reality, they're the lasting first. They're the first who opens the door for others. Because the problem with the gentleman in the 1880s is that he was the only one.
Well, I think he was followed by two. He was followed by two, but it's kind of interesting his story here. So Moses Fleetwood Walker, he played in the 1884 season. Very interesting man here. So he also earned 4 patents for inventions in artillery shells and film reels.
Wow.
He was recruited by the University of Michigan before leaving to play minor league baseball. And he played minor league, had a very successful 1883 season, and then was drafted for the Toledo Blue Stockings, I guess the way it worked, if the minor league team did well enough, they got moved up to the American Association, which made it like that team now became a part of the Major League Baseball organization. It was 2 different organizations at the time. Anyways, as far as I can tell, he only played 1 season in the Major League, but he did continue to play for the minor leagues until 1889. But a very troubled individual in the sense of he was a remarkable man, and I guess just his frustration with how much he was being held back because of the color of his skin got to him to the point to where I do believe he became alcoholic towards the end of his life, and died younger than he needed to.
He did
as a result.
He did write he did publish a book called Our Home Colony to explore ideas about the African American population emigrating en masse back to Africa.
Yeah.
Simply because how could it be any worse than what we go through here?
Yeah. But interesting. Maybe we'll see a movie about him someday.
Maybe. I hope so. That sounds like a fascinating story.
Yep. All right, Kyle.
A depressing one.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
This was definitely less depressing than Selma.
Oh, yeah.
I will say. I'll say this is maybe Glory level of depressing.
I'd say so.
In talking about movies dealing with race. You know, this reminds me of that, what's that? Philadelphia Eagles movie with Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, Invincible.
Invincible. Yeah. Where, unfortunately, real life didn't play out quite as well as Hollywood would hope. So ideally, they would have went on and beat the Yankees, and we could have our end of the movie be the World Series win. But, you know, if you can't just completely change history, you know, unless you're Quentin Tarantino, then you know, everything's fair game. But moving on, an interesting movie. This was a first time watch for me.
Really?
And I hadn't seen it before. You know, I remember when it came out in theaters, and I wanted to go, and I don't remember exactly why. I just never made it to it. So, anyways, Kyle, we got 60 seconds, man. Let's do a most dope, most nope.
Okay.
That's not what it's called. We got 60 seconds. Let's do biggest dope, biggest nope. That's what it is.
Most dope. 6 kilos.
All right, you ready? You want to start? Or you want me to start?
I'll start. Why not?
All right, ready, set, go.
Okay. My biggest dope, honestly, I think is the relationship between Jackie Robinson and Branch Rickey that is shown in the movie. I think it's really well done. There's a lot of good in this movie, but I think anytime you can focus on the human element and the connection that you need to get through something like that, chef's kiss. Biggest nope. Not a lot of nope in the movie. I think, weirdly, I don't think Ben Chapman's racist enough. I think generally the racism's just a little vanilla.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's an interesting nope there. Biggest
I'll explain
dope.
it in a second.
Biggest dope. I want to second what you say, but I want to say something different. I'm going to say specifically the scene in the tunnel when he breaks the bat not Chapman. Branch Rickey talks to Robinson. Biggest nope. I'm gonna say lack of a strong antagonist. There's our minute. Elaborating on that is essentially we kind of have a few, which I mean you should have multiple antagonists to overcome because that's kind of how it was. But I wish we would have focused in really on one character and maybe even seen a little bit of a changing character of them. But you know. Oh, well.
Yeah, so I'll explain. My biggest nope is that it's not that the movie shies away from the fact that Jackie Robinson had to endure incredible abuse, physical, verbal. It's that because, and I appreciate this, because it's trying to be about the man, it doesn't fully give just the sheer disgustingness of what he had to face. As late as the end of his career, he gets death threats. And occasionally has like security have to follow him into baseball stadiums. Like I said, Ben Chapman's tirade in real life is twice as bad as it is in the movie. Yeah. So I appreciate it. I think it's good. I understand why, because modern audiences, that would probably take you out of the movie. But you know, as a historian, that's got to be my biggest nope is you got to make the racist, dude. Like you got to show people how bad it was. Yeah.
What do you say 0 to 10? Where are you going to put it?
Ooh, okay. Historically, I gotta give it an 8, man. I mean, there's like little nuanced things, but they're not, in my opinion, they're not the important parts of the history of Jackie Robinson or of the 1947 baseball season. As a movie, I'll give it a 7.5. It's really good. I've seen better sports movies, honestly. I've seen better sports movies about integration, but it's a really good movie. Yeah. Better sports movie about integrations. Remember the Titans. Just
100%. That was the first thing that came to my mind too. Yeah, I agree on that one. Yeah,
but it's really good. Like I really enjoy it. I'd watch it.
It really is. It really is. Yeah, I'd say 7.5 for me too. So I think I gave Selma 7. This is 7.5. I was talking to you, and I was like, this is not nearly as, I've already said this, but it is not nearly as depressing as Selma.
It doesn't make you feel nearly as awful as a human being.
No, definitely not. It's much more uplifting, and I feel like just overall, I think they did a better job with this movie than they did. And
it's not quite as heavy-handed, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I mean,
it's got a little more nuance to it, you know.
We have baseball going on too, so it's a little more exciting, a little more my speed. All right, man. Yeah, Jackie Robinson, what a great athlete, what a great man.
Mm-hmm. It's ironic because Jackie Robinson also died young. Not as young as Chadwick Boseman, but he only lives to be 53. I think he passes away from complications of diabetes and heart disease.
Yeah,
in the 70s.
Chadwick Boseman, man. That's just it's so.
He is the biggest dope in this movie. I mean, that man brought that performance, especially for his first main movie role. Like that's amazing. Good job, man. Rest in peace, bro. Good job.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't remember. I still remember getting that news, and I was like, "This is fake."
Yeah, me too.
Or I was like, "Oh no, he had a car wreck or something," and man,
or he got COVID, or like something.
Yeah, it was 2020. So yeah, gone way too soon, man. Okay, man. What are we talking about next week?
That's a good question. Have we talked about what we're talking about next week?
I feel like every single one of our conversations goes the same way because we kind of mention it, but then we don't commit,
and then we're just like, oh well.
Next week, let's do something a little different.
Okay.
Let's do that John Wayne movie we were talking about.
Oh, okay. The Searchers.
Let's do The Searchers, man.
Let's take it back. Let's do a classic. Why not?
Yeah. Yep. So, kind of an update. I feel like if you make it to the end of the episode, you get a little peek behind the curtain here.
Oh man.
We are
just got X-rated, baby.
What? Hold on. No.
Oh, wrong curtain.
Put clothes on.
Let me just put my shirt back on. I'm sorry about
that. We are getting the episode list for season 3 ready.
Yes, we are.
We're working on it. And
by that we mean we're vaguely thinking about it.
I think I've got like 12 written down. Obviously, they're not set in stone.
Were you going to share this 12 with me, or?
Well, eventually. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and the TikToks are coming along pretty well so far. I mean, I gotta have quite a few done before I start releasing them. So,
with a little luck, we'll get them on there before it gets banned.
Yeah, hopefully. And I hope we can say things like Nazi on there without getting banned too. Because
please, half of TikTok is crazy people anyway. It's fine.
I sure hope it's okay. I don't know. I've seen some things that they edit weird words out. It's like, man, this is very PG.
We say Nazi and they just put a duck quacking noise.
That'd be fine.
When on D-Day we went to fight the army.
So moving forward, man, things are looking good. We've had a great boom over the past few weeks. We've got a lot of active listeners. Very thankful for everybody checking in on us and seeing what we're putting out there. I love it. So keep it going, man. Let us know if you got a request, you got a movie you want us to cover. Let's cover it. Let's try to please the people.
Yeah, we do have a Facebook page that none of you know about, but it's up. Find it, comment, Tell us what you want.
History According to Hollywood. I think if you look that up, we should be the only one. So
we better be. If not, I'm gonna have to fight somebody. I'm gonna have to come at somebody like a kamikaze.
Come at you like a kamikaze.
That is
have
such
a little
good
chin wag.
That is, if you actually think about the implications of that line, that's such a good threat.
Yeah,
I'm gonna come at you at 400 miles an hour, and I'm gonna kill you.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks again, guys. I hope y'all take care, and we will be back next week.
Peace.